So tonight we're going to talk about something that's been a real hot topic or hot button item in the media and a lot of circles. And we're going to talk a little bit about gun control. Specifically, we're going to talk about the AR-15 and some of the negative publicity that particular weapon has received. Probably the most important thing we need when we're listening to our politicians or we're talking about gun control in general is we need some education about that particular weapon. A lot of people get worked up about the AR-15 that it looks like a military style gun. It's really no more than just looks. And AR has never stood for assault rifle. So we're going to look at a lot of different things. We're even going to look at some crime rates and what concealed carry licenses have done to these crime rates. So let's start with the AR-15. Our officials have used tons of scary words when they're talking about guns in this country. The AR-15 has been the target of most of this. The AR-15 is often called that assault weapon that I mentioned. We need to understand what an assault weapon is if we're going to get into this debate. The term assault weapon has never been used by gun makers. The term was actually coined in the mid-1980s by a politician that was trying to spark gun control debate. The advocates started using this as a political ploy. AR in the AR-15 stands for Armalite rifle, the first company that started to build a gun on that platform. And 15 is simply the 15th design of that gun before they came up with one that they really liked. So it's been said that the AR-15 is such a powerful weapon. When comparing the AR-15, which is most commonly chambered in .223 or 5.56 NATO, to one of the most popular hunting rounds in this nation, the 30-06 or 30-06, the differences are staggering. For the purpose of this article, we're going to talk about the energy at both the muzzle and at 100 yards. So at the muzzle of a .223 5.56 NATO round, the energy is 1,250 foot-pounds, while the 30-06 or the 30-06 is commonly at 2,911 foot-pounds. At 100 yards, the differences are just as dramatic. 1,013 foot-pounds on the .223 5.56 and 2,243 foot-pounds respectively for the 30-06. But nobody seems to be talking about this bolt-action rifle commonly used for large game hunting because it doesn't look scary. Then, in some circles, they talk about the death rates from guns. While I am certainly not going to argue that guns are frequently used as a means of suicide, they are not nearly as deadly in the hands of a person that acquired that gun by legal means. Remember, the no-gun zones, very rarely do criminals listen to that. And then there's murder rates have significantly fallen since many of our states have passed concealed carry laws. A report done by the Crime Prevention Research Center shows that the number of killings have dropped nearly 25%, while the number of concealed carry permits have gone from 4.6 million to 12.8 million since 2007. The argument comes up that so many people having guns will surely lead to violence, but based off the reports we're seeing come from the Crime Prevention Research Center, it simply is not the case. Many of our crime rates have fallen since we've implemented concealed carry licenses in several of our states. In the law enforcement community, firearm infractions happen at a rate of 16.5 per 100,000 officers, while at the rate of 2.4 per 100,000 citizens occur in concealed carry holders. So if we look at those rates, officers are far more likely to use their weapon than a concealed carry holder. And lastly, we need to look at some of the things that should never be overlooked when we're talking about gun control, and that's the Second Amendment. It is very difficult to find information on what the Second Amendment actually means, because over the years, people have very much written their own opinions into it. But when everyone writes their varying opinion, we have to look at simply what it reads. A well-regulated militia being necessary for security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. While several people have opinions on this, it would seem to me that the Founding Fathers had no problems with gun ownership. Some groups will say that only applies to muskets. Then we should probably say that only applies to the quill and a piece of parchment. The Second Amendment was written at a time when people had to fight and they died for the freedoms from an oppressive body that gives us the freedoms we have today. The founders of this country did not want people here or ever to have to go through that kind of hardship again. That is why limitations were placed on the power of the government and not the power of its people. These are just a few of the facts from the gun control debates, and it certainly is not comprehensive. And the statistics don't seem to be as scary or as bad as we've been led to believe. And the AR-15 isn't the all-powerful firearm that the media has led it to believe. The term assault rifle really has no meaning, and people that carry guns simply seems to lead to less crime, and it may even prevent it. And last and foremost, it was written into a document that the founders of this great country cited as our Second Amendment, and that is right after our freedom of speech.